Hey VC, this is Harvey of Spin the Black Circle. Welcome to Friday Night Vinyl. Hope everyone is well and doing good things. So it's springtime in the UK, or close to summer, but we still get some changeable weather. It's typical UK. So it was overcast yesterday, VC. So I thought, what should I do? I'll go to a record store. So I did that. Came back with 8 albums and one 7-inch. So let's get stuck into this superb, in my opinion, a bunch of finds from yesterday. So the first is something I was unaware of until I saw it in the shop, which is Shades of Joy, the 1969 psychedelic jazz soul fusion album, debut LP on the Fontana label. So I asked the owner, Pete Bonner, to put this on the stereo, and it sounded immense. Right up my street. Female vocalist Millie Foster, who was later briefly a soul artist with a couple of albums, but most notably Martin Fierro, who later toured extensively with the Grateful Dead. But based on what I heard in the shop, this is in minty condition too. Shades of Joy, debut self-titled LP. Can't wait to give this a spin. So that was an excellent find. One of those things, unless you go to a bricks and mortar, you don't even know this exists. It gets put on the deck. It's right up your street. The only thing that gave it away that I might be interested is that the owner had a little sticker up here, which I've taken off, that said something like superb jazz, psychedelic San Francisco fusion, which kind of got me going. So Shades of Joy debut. If you know this band and any of their later material, maybe you comment and tell me what to get next. Next was a very cheap sealed new album by Daughter of Swords, which is a pseudonym for Alexander Sosa Monig of Mountain Man. So Mountain Man are a female folk trio. So this is Alexander Sosa Monig's I think debut, or was it the second solo LP under the moniker Daughter of Swords, and this is Dawnbreaker. So this was £8 sealed, brand new. So I thought, I've got to give this a go. So I gave it a little listen, went outside of the shop this time because it was sealed. Put it on my phone, and I thought, yeah, I'm having me that for £8. So yeah, Daughter of Swords, Dawnbreaker, and it's on Bella Union too, which I just find is a label that really does focus on quality indie folk. They also seem to press on this fantastic, really heavy vinyl too, and this is no exception. So yeah, Daughter of Swords is the artist name, but it's really Alexander Sosa Monig from Mountain Man, and this is Dawnbreaker. So look forward to giving that a spin over a beer later. The next was a £2 sealed brand new album in Psychotron by South Korean American female soul singer. You see it on the tag that I've done, and this is by Park Ye-jin, and it's Before I Die, her debut. £2 sealed on this lovely pink marble. Now I did stream this all the way home from the shop, and it's fantastic. She sings in Korean, sings in English, raps in Korean, raps in English, and she's also a DJ. So you get this mix of like trance-like trip hop with some sweet stuff, some bitter stuff. It sounds quite X-rated. There's a lot of foul language on this too, so be warned about that, VC, hence the parental advisory sticker. But this really sounds like something where she's not pandering on this her debut album to anything like a mainstream market, but it also sounded really adventurous and like there's something under the bonnet there. So yeah, Park Ye-jin, probably horribly mispronounced, her debut LP, Before I Die, for £2 sealed, before I bought and opened it in Psychotron. So what I found that was, it gets a good write up in Pitchfork too, does that album. The next one I spotted on the wall in the shop last time, and I was praying that it was still there. Got in the shop, it's not on the wall. It's not on the wall of expensive rare records, but fortunately had been put in the hip hop section, and it is an original UK pressing, pretty rare, of the 1994 debut LP by Brandy on Atlantic Records. And what an LP this is. I would describe this, if you haven't heard this, as she's like a one-woman TLC. But I think, no offense, but a bit more substance to her flow and her songs than TLC. really cool new Jack Swing album. So Brandy, VJ Plus Condition. The big hits from this were Baby and particularly I Wanna Be Down. But yeah, it's new Jack Swing, it's soul, it's 90s, and by that time I think in my opinion, the use of hard-edged electronic music had been tempered a bit by a more classic soul sounding new Jack Swing. So still drum machines following drums, still lots of keyboards and programming, but kind of mixed with horns, with acoustic guitars, with a writing sensibility that had been toned down from this kind of hard-edged 80s sound. So soul was on the turn into something a bit more natural and a bit more respectful of tradition by the time of this Brandy debut. So yeah, what a find. This was £40, which is, I mean, it's really rare. That's pretty cheap for an original pressing of this. There are represses, but yeah, super stoked to have the Brandy debut and for it not to have disappeared when I got back to the store. Well, I was in that hip-hop section. I think this is an album that Alex at Beer on Vinyl showed recently, but I could be wrong. So Alex, I'm sorry if I'm misquoting here, but I think Alex showed a copy of Big Time by Heavy D and the Boys. So 1980s, I think, hip hop LP. So on whoever that made that recommendation, I think it was Alex. This was £5, so I thought I can't go wrong if a trusted member of the VC has plucked out Heavy D and the Boys as Big Time for £5, then I will give it a go. Yes, 1989 on MCA Records, on the MCA Rainbow label. So Heavy D and the Boys. Next is I mean this is a bit of a lesson for me that I was watching a TV program and as part of the soundtrack on this program, Ain't No Mountain High Enough by Marvin Gaye and Tammy Terrell came on, and I started thinking I've got to get that on 7-inch. How do I just get a copy of that? So I looked through the Motown Chartbusters albums that I have. I looked online at Motown Chartbusters. Can't see that it's listed on any of the 9 Motown Chartbusters. Had a look at the prices of original and even reissues of Ain't No Mountain High Enough on 7-inch, and you were talking £25 to £30 each. So there yesterday was the most sensible option, which is for £8, 8 English pounds, Marvin Gaye and Tammy Terrell's greatest hits, and of course it features, amongst others, Ain't No Mountain High Enough, Your Precious Love, You're All I Need to Get By, Ain't Nothing Like the Real Thing, and the Onion song. So yeah, for £8 in really good condition, there you have something more than a 7-inch, obviously, but something that I can play and have that song on vinyl without breaking the bank. So I almost thought, I'll just get one of those 7-inches for £25. But I'm glad I didn't, as much as I love 7-inches, because this is a more sensible buy. And I get a whole host of other Marvin Gaye and Tammy Terrell songs, obviously, all recorded before she tragically died at a very young age. The next one is just something that I had to go to Discogs because I just don't see this in shops, and I don't want to take the risk on a reissue, and that is I wanted a 1970s all analog pressing of The Harder They Come soundtrack by Jimmy Cliff. So I managed to get a hold of that on Discogs for £25, I think it was. It's still a reissue, but it's a 70s analog reissue from 1975 on the Island Sunset label. This sounds immense. The soundstage, the depth is incredible, and the depth of the bass, but also the depth of all of the instruments here. Hence why I think, in generality, VC, if you're going to go back and find albums that were recorded in the 70s, which by definition must be analog, my preference is always go back to 70s analog pressings, even if you can't get your hands on an original. Now, it doesn't mean there's not some great reissues. The reissue of this might be amazing, but I know this was analog by definition because it was reissued in 1975, and yet nobody could claim to be digital at that time, I don't think, anyway. The next one is an album I already have, but I don't have this version of it, and that is the early Radar Records pressing of Armed Forces by Elvis Costello and the Attractions. So third Elvis Costello and Attractions album, and the reason I wanted this additional copy is it's got the full die cut, fold out sleeve and the postcards and the 7-inch record live at the Hollywood High. So you get, I'm not going to open it right up, but you get the full fold out You get postcards, which I will show, and you get the 7-inch, which has Watching the Detectives on it live as a B-side. So you get these fantastic postcards with it too, of Elvis Costello and the Attractions. So I think it's a Barney Bubbles who does these, has a penchant for, who had a penchant for these kind of weird album art projects. Barney Bubbles. Anyway, whoever did this, I had to have it because it's a work of art, and also of course for the bonus 7-inch. So yeah, wonderful. Elvis Costello and Attractions, Armed Forces. I was a bit worried that it had a few surface marks, but I played it through this morning and it's absolutely minty in terms of the playback, which is what matters to me at the end of the day. So yeah, super stoked to get that, particularly because even that die cut wasn't much money, and I really wanted the bonus 7-inch to go with it too. So my second copy of that, maybe I'll give the other copy, which is also a Radar Records copy, but doesn't have the die cut, doesn't have the 7-inch. Maybe I'll give the other one away to an appreciative friend. Then in terms of albums, last but by no means least, was I recently, last weekend, went to see the Michael Jackson film Michael, with some trepidation, because the critics' view was that it was too sickly sweet, sugar-coated who he was as an individual, and it got awful critics' reviews. But actually, VC, if you're a music fan, and if you like Motown records, let alone Michael Jackson, I would urge you to get to the cinema and see it, and not wait for it to come on TV, because the thought that's meticulously been put into the set pieces, the music, is incredible, all the way from the stuff with the Jackson 5 through to the solo stuff. It kind of ends with Thriller, there's a bit of a bad video in there, but it ends with Thriller essentially. So it's kind of that portion up to his classic period, ending and into something else, and everything from Jafar Jackson and his portrayal of his uncle, to the set pieces, the detail that's applied to the music, the fact that you hear isolated vocal tracks, which I don't know whether that's Jafar Jackson or Michael Jackson on the from the sound desk, but yeah, it's amazing. So if you like music, I would go and see the Michael Jackson biopic. And it's not as sugar-coated as the critics would have you believe. There are some pretty hard-hitting stuff going on with Joe Jackson, for example, which I won't go into detail here, but you can probably guess what's happening there in terms of what he was like as a dad to that family. But anyway, that prompted me to get probably the only classic period Jackson album I don't have, which is Bad. And this is an original Andy DaCosta UK master that has the original version of The Way You Make Me Feel before it was remixed on the later vinyl cut, and also the original version of Bad that had the rasping horns on it, and also the lost intro to I Just Can't Stop Loving You, the spoken intro, which was later cut. So this is the original version on vinyl. Later versions were kind of cut to change those things and replace some of these tracks with the 7-inch versions. And the master, I mean, listen, I compared this actually to a stream remaster through my Wim Ultra, and I have to say that in some areas, in lossless, the streamed version did best this vinyl copy. I would say when the tracks are either ballads or more mid-tempo, the vinyl tends to shine through. But in terms of what is a digitally mixed and recorded LP, the bulk of this sounds better on streaming. So nice to have it on vinyl, but this is in contrast to what I said about Jimmy Cliff's The Harder They Come. This is an album that was recorded in digital, for digital. So probably a little surprised that they'd actually a quality digital version of this is besting this vinyl album. In generality anyway, there's some tracks that still sound better on vinyl. But yeah, Bad, it's nowhere near as good as Off the Wall, nowhere near as good as Thriller, and it's nowhere near as good as the stuff that he did as a member of the Jacksons or the Jackson 5, in my opinion. But hey ho, it was his vision more than Quincy Jones's. I think this doesn't sound like a Quincy Jones production, it sounds like an MJJ production. Most of the songs are written by him. But anyway, it's a landmark LP anyway, and it's nice to have it. And then finally, flipping right back to the inspiration, or one of the inspirations for the Jackson 5, and my continuing penchant for picking up 7-inch singles, and particularly James Brown, or GB 7-inch singles on the King label for £5 yesterday. Parts 1 and 2 of In It Funky Now by James Brown. So fantastic to have that. And I have to say, these 7 inches, these James Brown 7 inches just spring out of the speakers because they're cut on 45 RPM and because they're all analog compared to what this would sound like if you streamed it. So yeah, In It Funky Now, Part 1 and Part 2, completing the Rainy Day collection that I bought yesterday at Segatron Records. So I hope that was of interest to everybody. It's pretty eclectic, as you can see. Later on, if it stops raining, I'm going to go out and do one of my Walking the Groove videos. Even if it does rain, actually, I might just put a raincoat on. And I've got a juicy topic to talk to you about for those who are following that series. But until then, until next time on Friday Night Vinyl, peace.